I see a better Africa. The dream is vivid and tangible, and it's
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Panache Gananamo and welcome back to the Good Morning Africa show. So last time we had Mr. Dr. Katsande. Yeah, Dr. Katsande, one of the favorite people in Africa. So today we're going to be continuing with his teaching about leadership in Africa. So ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and do enjoy. If you have that coffee beside you, I'm telling you, you're gonna enjoy.
There are three things that needs to be true in that leader. Number one is character. Number two is competence. And number three is the aspect of stewardship. When leaders approach leadership without first of all them as individuals experiencing personal transformation, a change of heart, like it is purported in Romans chapter 12, be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. Leaders need to go through a process of personal transformation, change of mindset, change of their value system, their moral compass, change of their ethical practice, change of how they engage with one another in society. So personal transformation is the first step towards achieving leadership that will bring in a better Africa. Because if a person is experiencing transformation, that means that particular individual, they will have a high value of self-leadership. And by self-leadership, I mean that they can be able to control their emotives, they are able to control their appetites, they are able to control their passions and desires, that they do not look at the nation or the society or an organization from an individualistic perspective, but they align themselves as individuals to the common values that is agreed by a society. So personal transformation includes the changing of one's own morals, character, and also perspective. It is a heart issue. It is a heart issue. We are crying about corruption. Corruption is a heart issue, which is driven by lack of ethics and morals. And so when a leader transforms self in these areas, then the leader is able to lead through modeling. They can model their life to others to see what it means to lead a community without necessarily pushing in self-interest for self-benefit. Then the second one is the issue of competence. Competent leaders are critical in order for us to lead and to transform Africa. And when I'm talking about competence, I'm looking at the competence of being able to look at what is it that the continent of Africa has? What resources do we have at our disposal? And how do we really transform these resources to build in the communities around those resources, and furthermore to increase the of the country. So when leaders are competent enough to come up with solutions or work with communities for communities to come up with solutions, and the leadership plays a facilitative role, you will find out that we can transform the resources around us to ensure that Africa gets out of its impoverishment. So leaders need to be competent in terms of their engagement skills. And when I'm talking about engagement, I talk about engagement inside and outside their sphere of influence. If it is an organizational leader, The leader has to have the competent skills in engagement within the organization and also engaging with stakeholders outside the organization. And then if it is leadership within government, then the competence comes in by coming up with policies that are pro the people, rather than having it upside down where the people serves the government, but the government should be serving the people. So when you look at most policies that are derived by many African governments, they actually derive policies to try and coerce the citizens to serve the interests of government. But in a real sense, if you really study about government in the Bible, you'll actually see that a government is actually set up to serve the interests of its people, not that the people should set up to serve the interests of the government. And that's why you find out that most governments in Africa, they deliberately collect taxes from the people, but they do very little in plowing back to enhance and to support the people. Africa needs competent leaders, and these competent leaders should have character, morals, values, and ethics. When all these things come into play, then the leaders will be able to make a huge difference, and Africa will become a better place to be. And the component of the transforming steward leadership is stewardship itself. The question is, how do we steward power? You know, we need leaders who understand the stewardship of power. Stewardship of power is the understanding that the roles and responsibilities that I'm given and the authority that I'm given as a leader, it is not given to oppress, suppress, and undermine the people around us. Who has a good understanding and stewardship of power, they actually would use their power to improve the lives of the people around them. Then the second one is the stewardship of self. Stewardship of self. When I'm talking about stewardship of self, is the ability for the leaders to be self-regulatory. By being self-regulatory, a leader carries out a value system where they can be able to say, this I cannot do, because if I do this, it impacts not only me, but it impacts in society. So leaders carry out a self-regulatory mechanism, and unfortunately, we don't see that in many of African leaders. Self-regulation is actually a phenomenon that is not in the value system of many leaders. Then another component of stewardship is the stewardship of the resources. Like I said in the beginning, God has given in a lot of resources, and those resources, they are not given for the benefit of some few elite individuals. God grants these resources to ensure that those resources can benefit an entire society and entire community. So these are very critical elements which, when African leaders embrace, it can actually lead in to the transformation of Africa. Then the third one that I would want to talk about is the stewardship of relationships. No organization, individuals, or company, or nation is actually designed to sustain itself without actually being interdependent with the total sum of God's creation, which is the whole world. So we need each other. That's why you find the Bible says two are better than one, because one cannot be able to do everything on their own. So stewardship of resources is very, very critical. And sometimes politics drives us to antagonize other organizations or other nations because of our own agendas, political agendas. But the stewardship of relationship, if we have good relationship with our neighboring countries, with the global organizations or globally with other nations, you will find out that it will create in genuine and sincere partnership. Stewardship of resources also means jealously safeguarding national resources for the better of every citizen of the country. Because the resources that are given in Chendambuya, God planted those resources so that the people in Chendambuya can actually benefit first and then benefit the rest of Zimbabwe and then the rest of the world. But what we have seen with our current leaders in Africa is that communities are deprived of resources that have been placed within their reach. Instead of looking at mechanisms and apply good stewardship principles and develop those resources at a local level, then that you will have development of the continent not starting from the grassroots level. It starts from right in the village where the granite stone is actually found, you know. And I will give a very good example. Like, for example, if you look at Toko and Mudzi, it's very rich in granite, but that granite is extracted and is moved away, and the people are remain there with the holes, and there is no plowback in that society. The system in that society will actually be totally destroyed. So steward leaders will actually look at how can we really maximize this resource and turn that whole deposit of granite and put the granite factory right there. You mine it there, you put the factory right there, and the granite stone leaves that place well polished. And what you have done by doing that? You have created an economy for that community as people will have jobs and so on. So in a nutshell, leadership that will bring in transformation of Africa or a better Africa, leaders who are transforming steward leaders. They understand that first of all, I must change myself. Second, when I change myself, I then can be able to influence the society around me. And thirdly, once I influence the society around me, we can steward the resources for the better of everyone. And that way, Africa will develop, and you will not create two classes for the extreme poor and the extreme rich, but everyone will benefit on the resources that God has entrusted to the continent. Thank you so much for paying audience to my talk, and God bless you.
So I would like to say that, ladies and gentlemen, we have learned a lot about being a very, very, very effective leader in Africa. So I would say, if you want more of this content, please subscribe to our channel. Link is down below. This is your host, Panashi Gananamu. Until we meet again.
A better Africa is imminent. It's unavoidable. It's unstoppable. And our young people...
Impact Africa Trust, in partnership with International Christian Youth in UK and Springdale College in UK, is offering a variety of diplomas with entrepreneur practical projects covering SDGs to be done by students. The diplomas are as follows: Leadership and Governance, Leadership and Development, Leadership for Post-Conflict, Women in Leadership and Development, Missional Leadership,